Hello, I'm your host Enzo Mecca. We're continuing this series of readings by practitioners. So practitioners that read for us, read cards. And today we have Victrix Oracle, otherwise known as Victoria, to tell us a little bit about what she does. She has been in the community for quite some time, and I'm going to give her an opportunity to tell us a little bit about her bio, basically, before we get going. Hi, Victoria. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much, Enzo. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
So I'll try to be really brief. As you mentioned, I've been in the community and a few different Montreal-based communities for a long time. The spiritual community and the pagan community, and a lot of significant overlap that we find within there. My venture started about 15 years ago. I was working at the Montreal institution Mélange Magique, the magical blend. And I was having reactions to crystals. Decks were falling off at my feet to come and talk to me.
Oh,
and it was
cool.
very clear. Yeah, it was very clear that the witch was in, right? I was working in the right space for my development. And just working there, serving the public, I had no choice. I had to learn about the color coding systems and how we see them, and the chakras, and some crystals, and candle magic, and the various gods. And growing up Greek Italian, I learned about deities from that point of view very young. In Greek elementary school, and it blossomed from there. So from there, now I've been reading tarot and oracle cards about 15 years. Certified Reiki master from Ananda Om Academy. I studied crystal healing at Synergia, which is she also studied through Ananda Om and various really powerful popular online programs. So just everything has kind of been coming in the direction of studying to help people kind of understand themselves, where they are, how they got there, and how to get to where they want to go, right? So that's why generally a 3 card is the minimum we like to do, because it gives us some sense of where you came from, where you're headed, and where you're most likely to end up, right? And if you don't like that point, my job is to address the present with you so that we can alter the future, right? I can't change the past.
Right.
My background in social services assists a lot, so I do more what's called transformative tarot readings, tarot counseling.
Interesting.
Which was actually coined by Katrina Wine, and I have her book in the other room. It's my Bible. But so, sometimes we ask questions as well, and it's really to have people kind of get the point of what the cards are saying for themselves, as opposed to me just feeding it to them.
Okay, and today is September 30th, which I think is the Pluto retrograde. It's ending, I think.
We're coming out of a 5-month period where Pluto has been retrograde for about 5 months.
Could you tell us a little bit about that, and just later we can segue into reading some cards? Yeah,
absolutely. So we're going to do a reading to see what's coming up with the Pluto retrograde ending and how that might affect us.
Okay.
So the Pluto is in Roman mythology. Pluto is kind of equated to Hades in Greek mythology. Perhaps some might say Hela in which we saw in the movie, the Thor movies, right, as the goddess of death. And it has very much an underground, what we call chthonic deity energy. So what a chthonic deity means in the spiritual and the witchcraft world is a very introspective. It's a time of deep introspective looking within, letting old habits, die in a way so that we can move forward anew. And some planetary retrogrades happen very, very often, right? Mercury happens quite often. Mars is another one that is not as often as Mercury, but it has to do with the distance from, the Earth and the way we see it and the way they turn around.
It's interesting that you said death. So there's an ending and a beginning. We're absolutely in the autumn season, so this is just fits right in.
Yeah, and I feel it's no random accident that the that Pluto, that coming out of that Pluto energy is coming as we're coming into the season of, slowing down in that introspection and coming into just a week after the autumn equinox, coming very close to Samhain or Halloween or Day of the Dead or however you wish to honor that end of October time of year as well. So from an astrological point of view, the last 5 months have, been really full of things like emotional upsets, meltdowns, a lot of feelings of control, blame, guilt, projection of negativity, karmic forces and misfortune, unhealthy soul contracts, blockages, detours, that kind of energy. And that's the shadow aspect to the Pluto energy. And Pluto already being death related to our unity consciousness is already a shadow aspect of man. So with a retrograde, with a Pluto retrograde, we're going into the shadow of the shadows. And these past 5 months have been a great time. And a lot of people have just been instinctively called to do some deep introspective work, what we call shadow work, perhaps in a shamanic point of view or an oracular point of view. Just perhaps maybe deciding that they need to sign up for therapy or leaving a difficult relationship. There's been a lot of, I know in my clients and my personal life as well, there's been a lot of upheaval and a lot of changing and just a strive to sort of change for the better. Coming to the end of the retrograde, now is really the time for closure. Now is the time for healing. It's, as we all know, death in the tarot is all about transformation, and death in the metaphysical world is very much the same thing. It's not really an ending, it's the beginning of a new cycle, right? So that time for healing, self-empowerment, optimism, feeling kind of clear and in control, feeling like you're coming to the sense of being free and renewed. And these are a lot of the popular astrological themes that people are exploring and dealing with right now. And it makes sense, like you said, with that autumnal point of view coming in and just this energy of it's getting colder, it's getting darker, and we kind of have to address our shadows so that, they don't grow. People think there's this real strong toxic positivity culture, I feel, more and more on the internet and in various spiritual communities where people are saying, look towards the light. It's all about being good. It's all about just look towards the positive. And the thing is, if we ignore our shadows and the light's this way, if we ignore our shadows and it's easier for them to creep up on us. It's easier for them to grow in the darkness unnoticed, that we don't realize that they're being fed and they're growing.
They have to be acknowledged in order to move forward.
Exactly.
So for today, which deck calls to you, Victoria?
I'm going to be working with the New Vision Tarot.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen those.
Yeah, and not a lot of people have it. It's relatively new on the market. So here we see the back side, the Fool card,
okay,
and the Magician card. And if you'll notice, the imagery is slightly different. We're looking at things from another angle. We're getting the shadow side. So it's the traditional rider-based tarot, which has been around for centuries now. About 100 years or so, the Rider-Waite has been around now. And it's really based on that same deck, but we're looking at each image instead of looking at it from this angle, we're going to be looking at it from this angle. Okay. So we're seeing all sorts of new symbolism that perhaps wasn't a part of the original deck, but that these creators decided to make this back point of view. I often, in my longer readings, I use the two decks together. So we get a good look at what's kind of in our face and we're aware of, and what we're not seeing as much. And I feel that given this transformative, this shadow aspect of the Pluto coming out of retrograde and the time of year, I just thought it would be a great deck to work with.
Okay.
So it's beautiful. And what I like about it is you see based on the back there, you cannot tell if a card is reversed or right side up. So as a reader, I really like that because a lot of decks kind of, especially the Oracle and the Angel card decks, there's a kind of a tell. You can tell which way the card is, and clients tend to not pick that card. So I like that that's hidden. I'm just going to give them a bit of a shuffle. Oh, that's one for sure.
They keep jumping up at you. They want to come out.
It's partly in the way I shuffle, but I think that there's definitely trying to get some points across here too. So the 3 cards that we're working with, and I'd like to mention when it comes to a 3-card reading, a lot of people like to look at this as very simply past, present, future, or one solid picture that these 3 pieces of the puzzle are coming in to give us one image. I'd like to point out that there's really a variety of ways that we can see a 3-card spread. the id, the ego, and the super ego.
Okay.
Right? We have the three dantians in Chinese mythology. So we have the three dantians in Chinese medicine. So that would be connected to the sacral chakra, which is our first intuitive center, the guts, right? Our heart, with the second dantian in Chinese medicine, with the heart chakra, which is our second intuitive center, and the third dantian, the third eye, which is our third intuitive center. So we could see it like that. We could see it as, so many different aspects, our shadow selves, our light selves, and the selves that we naturally are becoming. There's so many different ways. So having said that, just to kind of give other readers there some, knowing that you can totally make any spread you want and make it click and work for you and your client the way it needs to. So the first card we have here is it came up reverse, but we have the Knight of Pentacles. So, excuse me, the page. It says knave on this deck, but it's the Page of Pentacles. So we're seeing him here from another point of view. And what we noticed in the back is this image, the structure, was not there in the traditional tarot. So that's part of where the focus would be, right, in the shadow aspects of things and the unseen of things. So the Page of Pentacles in the past tells me that, a lot of people in terms of a general reading and doing this for, the people, the greater people and the people that are going through these astrological changes, and that's all of us. So it tells me that, the universe acknowledges that things have been a little upside down, that we've been trying to get our ducks in order for, a while now. We've been trying to focus on our careers or our personal lives or, our health. The pentacles, the earth element, represents so many things. So it's not just money. A lot of people like to say it's money, but it's everything that's tangible and physical in this world. It's everything that it's our health. It's the food we ingest. It's the water and that we drink, the air that we breathe, and it's also how we interrelate as a community. So when the Page of Pentacles comes up, and remembering that the page is the first of the court cards, so this page will one day become the king of his suit. And the Page of Pentacles in reverse in the past, or that first card, is really telling us that, we see you, that we see that the universe sees that you've been struggling, perhaps that things have not been aligning quite as you wish. You try so hard and it just works this much, and that's okay. That's just part of, the ebb and flow of the universe and the cosmic drifts of the planets right now. Speaks highly of that kind of Pluto energy, where sometimes we really need to let go of the vision of what we thought would be in order to bring the actual change and the actual transformation, transmutation, elevation, evolution of our mission, of our soul, of our financial status as well. So it's okay to kind of feel like we're not where we thought we'd be, or we face loss. It could be tremendous loss. It could be death. It could be a loss of a job. That it's all right that we face these hurdles, because it's as difficult as it may be. It's part of the karmic balance that's setting us up to move forward into achieving these greater things that are coming. And I say that with some confidence, given that the card of the second spot, or the present, would be the sun.
Could I go back a sec?
Yeah.
Earlier you mentioned the Romanesque architecture in the back. What was the meaning of that?
Thank you. Yes, good point. So it's kind of a reminder, I feel. The pentacles have this sense of really, the pages, excuse me, have this sense of, feeling very much on their own. They're going to be leading the kingdom one day. We see them very closely studying their suit, right? So he's studying the suit of pentacles because he knows one day he's going to rule the people of the pentacle, and he needs to be prepared. And there's this sense of isolation that can come with that future daunting responsibility, right? This feeling of maybe getting ready. It could be getting ready because you're expecting a growing family, et cetera, et cetera. And the structure in the back really reminds us that, we're not alone. To me, it looks like what do they call it? Excuse me. To me, it looks like a shrine that they had, that the old shrines that they had to the gods.
Okay.
And you mentioned kind of, it's like a Romanesque, a Greco-Roman kind of
Yeah.
architecture. So, you know, given the time, I'm seeing Pluto's shrine here, and I'm seeing that we need to honor our shadow selves, and we need to honor our difficulties, and we need to face them and realize that we're not alone. We have a community and that supports us, even if it's just in somebody who's a mental health practitioner, even if it's just
Okay.
a friend who says, you know, let's go for tea, I care. Even if it's just a Facebook group where you feel you can share what's going on and talk about it, knowing that we're in a time now where it's a lot easier to come together. We're not as isolated as we used to be.
Yeah.
And if we choose to acknowledge these tiny acropolises, right, all over the place that we can go to for solace, that we can seek comfort from, you know, not just the oracle, right, but we can seek comfort from our friends, our family, people who are educated on the subject of what we've been through.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And just given that that comes back in the past, a reading is always full circle. So just because the card's in the past element doesn't mean that we don't want to come back to this kind of energy and this potential of growing. We want to turn that page from upside down to right side up, and have that environment of, you know, really growing and growing our financial status, growing our health, understanding what we need to do and what we need to understand about the material world to move into success. Coming up, we have the sun. The sun representing, you know, our happiness. The sun also represents fertility and abundance, most of all abundance. So it's ironic that we're coming into this sort of, you know, death time of year, and this time of year associated with loss and slowing down and getting darker. But if we look at it from that point of view of that page who felt alone, who has that solace behind him, the sun could very well represent, again, an opportunity to get, you know, as we're kind of slowing down and we're less busy because of the buoyancy of the summer and wanting to go out and enjoy, we can actually take advantage of this time to come together and to shine our light and share our light, right? The shortest night of the year in the pagan calendar, December 21st, 22nd, 23rd, depending on, you know, the year and where you are, etc., is an opportunity to come together. And that's what we do as witches. We come together and we keep a candle burning all night long, to remind us that the sun, the light, will come again. And although this is that shadow deck, we realize that there's nothing really hidden here, right? There's nothing that we don't see in the regular tarot. We still have the same horse, the same sunflower, the same baby, same flag, same sun. So that's telling you that happiness is genuine happiness. Joy and that feeling of achievement, abundance, it's genuine, it is what it is. Very rarely does it have like a two-faced element to it where you should feel shame or unhappiness for, you know, for your success or for your material abundance that you've worked so hard for, or for, you know, the fertility of your family growing, etc., etc. So
Okay.
that card coming up in the now, really it's just telling us, let's enjoy life for what it is. That sometimes there's serious shadow work to do, and sometimes there's serious darkness to look at, but sometimes the sun is out and life is beautiful, and we have to acknowledge these moments. We have to really pay attention. So that tells me that in this coming week of us coming out of the Pluto retrograde, there's going to be that feeling of, you know, achievement of, yes, you know, I am changing and growing. I still have anxiety and I still have triggers, but I'm growing as a person. I'm trying, I'm implementing my meditations or my therapy techniques, or my, you know, I'm reading my self-help books. I'm doing the work. And that's really what the sun represents, is that the work has been done, or the work is in the process of being done.
Okay.
And it's okay to celebrate it.
Very good. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. So in the third card, we have the Six of Cups. This is actually one of my favorite cards in the tarot, traditional and otherwise. And the unseen, the shadow aspect that we don't see in the traditional Rider-Waite Smith tarot would be these paternal kind of figures in the cloud.
I noticed that.
Right. So this, the way it's drawn, it kind of gives that element of sort of perhaps our ancestors looking down on us. Right. And, the sixes are all about family. It's very much a family number of kind of coming together. The Six of Cups, cups being water, our emotions. The Six of Cups is very much that feeling of nostalgia, and that, life maybe was easier when we were younger, or we didn't have as much responsibility, or, 20, 30 years ago, before we knew that the planet was, doomed by certain standards, before we really did the damage that we did to our environment, etc., etc. But I feel it comes out now as really a card of hope. Also, that the presence of those ancestors in the sky coming into this time of year as a medium is so important to me. It's telling us that, yes, the veil is thinning, right? So again, in traditional, the wheel of the year, we have 2 points where the veil is it's thinnest. We say it's more easy to permeate and get messages through and across. And we see a lot of representation of the veil in the tarot. So it makes sense that this would be, the implied symbolism here, that given the situation that, we are coming into this time of year where we're more conscious of death. We're more conscious of who came before us. How do we honor them? How do we maybe work with their energy so that we can move forward and be the person that would make our grandparents or our elders or, our ancestors proud. And that's what I see here is this is more of an emotional, people are going to be coming into more of an emotional connection with their ancestors, with their families, trying to better understand who they are, where they came from, and how to connect with the spirit of those that, have left behind, how to connect with the spirit of those that are no longer with us on this material earthly plane. Right. So we kind of, interestingly, that we're talking about Pluto, and we have this full gamut of, we see that you're struggling, you're being unseen. The light is still there. The light is still there if you want to see it. You just got to turn around and, find it. And to know that you're being watched and you're being guided. And whether for you that's the angels or your ancestors, it could be the spirit of the unicorn, could be dragons, it could be fairies, just this idea of being guided and being watched and feeling less alone in the universe now. And I know that I'm someone who can be very scientific. I used to be known as the skeptical psychic when I first started 15 years ago. Yeah. And part of me still is skeptical. I get a lot of calls about a haunting and a this and a that, and I'm like, all right, I'll come check it out. Let's see what's going on, right? But to me, it just couldn't be any more clear that Pluto is coming out of his retrograde, his darkness, his shadow, the scariest. And even though we're coming into the time of year, we're more likely to kind of get the heebie-jeebies and feel kind of creepy. And there's just something in the air around October, right, where we feel it. It's not just growing up in a culture of horror movies and Halloween. There's something changes. It's that permeation of the veil that we're sensing. And this is really an affirmation that, no, you're not alone. And when you feel that these people are with you, are communicating with you or making their presence known, when you smell that perfume or hear that song on the radio, they really are there with us. And I feel it's that god of death, because that's who Pluto is, right? In Roman mythology, Pluto is the god of the underworld. Very misunderstood deity, right? Very much associated with causing harm, whereas really he was more a guide for us in the afterlife. He took care of the souls that were that had passed away and that perhaps weren't able to come back into this life for one reason or another, because there is some talk of, we won't go there, but there is some talk of spirits continuing even in Greco-Roman mythology and coming back. Hades or Pluto was in charge of those who were stuck, and in fact getting them unstuck, sending them back down the river Styx so that they could be born again. And that's that representation of what this energy is. Now, interestingly enough, one last thing, because I know our time is precious. There's been a lot of talk lately in various groups, but in the scientific community as well, where they're really starting to prove that our DNA carries trauma. Our DNA carries, memories and trauma that have been drop down line by line, and we see it a lot in different, Native communities, but also people who survived the Holocaust, and, the Romani culture who also had their own Holocaust. And we see a lot of this trickle down effect. And as I mentioned, I study social services, and we learned about that as well, how children of alcoholics, even if they've never met their parents, have a higher percentage tendency of discovering, discovering alcohol and using it, possibly using it as a crutch. So it's not a guarantee, it's not a sure correlation, but there's a higher percentage tendency. So it's calling to us, and it's saying, let's communicate with our ancestors. Let's in our heart express what it is that we feel we need to know. How can we break this cycle? What would they have done differently if they were alive now, or if they had the insights, in the other realm of beyond that they have now? Reaching out to them, it's not just hiring a medium and doing some huge seance. It's a simple meditation in the heart. So I feel Pluto is really reaching out to us now to not give up on our financial, habits, and trying to get our ducks in a row and making things happen. And, it's kind of funny to the gods. They'll knock stuff over and make us start again. And that's all right. That's part of why we're here, to get stronger and stronger through each attempt, so that eventually when we do succeed, we know what to do with it. I don't know what I would have done if I succeeded at the first thing I ever tried as a kid. I don't think it would have worked out, right?
Good point.
I mean, we all got to fall and scrape a knee. Exactly. And so calling to us to not give up, calling to us to see the light, enjoy it. I tell people all the time, life's hard. You just lost your job. It's okay to distract yourself 2 hours, put on a movie, take a bath. I mean, it's good for your mental health. Obviously, don't get caught up in the light and forget about the reality and the need to, take care of yourself. But it's okay to acknowledge that abundance and the sunshine when it's there. And more so that he's calling us to move forward into the next coming weeks as we get into the Samhain spirit more and more, and the autumnal spirit more and more, to reach out to our ancestors. We can just carve a pumpkin, or we can carve a pumpkin with the intention of bringing our loved ones home. We can give out candy, or we can, give out candy and set an extra empty seat at the table on Halloween night, which is an ancient, across many cultures, representation of honoring our ancestors and inviting them to join us for a meal.
Excellent. I love this this depiction. I wanted to go back to a second card. I don't know why the second card intrigues me so much. Well, first of all, what's amazing is that it came out upside down, but also the page, I think you said, is in the photo, is in the drawing. He's back to us, and I find that particularly interesting. Do you read anything into that? Why is he back to us?
It was actually the first card, was the page, who came out upside down.
Yeah.
And the reason he's back to us.
Oh, the first card, yeah.
Yeah, is because of the tarot. It's looking at it from that point of view, because it's a shadow tarot.
Right. You
so
talked
a
about
lot
that.
of the main figures, including the child, the only reason the sun doesn't have his back to us is because the sun is so far up that kind of see it from the same angle. But you'll see all figures in this deck, for the most part, will have their back to us, unless they're figures that weren't originally there in the original tarot.
Very interesting.
But yes, that cold shoulder feeling, that back to us, is a lot. It's a lot of that energy of what's going on now, and it's part of why I chose the deck. And I feel with the Page of Pentacles, what it's really saying is a lot of people won't see you. A lot of people won't recognize you for what you are. The Pentacles can be seen as barren, just as much as blooming and full of life, right? So it's all in the eye of the beholder, and it's okay if somebody doesn't acknowledge the magic of what you are, or the potential of what you are, or how hard you're working to change. It's not about them seeing you and seeing you dead on and noticing, as much as it is you doing the work for yourself. His attention is so deeply into that pentacle, right? But so this Knave of Pentacles, this Page of Pentacles, is really showing that just do the work. Just keep doing the work, keep studying, keep your nose to the grindstone, focus on what you need to focus on, and it's going to get better. It's going to get better, and it's going to get more clear, and you're going to feel supported. And we're going to come back to that kind of nostalgic feeling, and, be able to give our children, or our, if you're like me, your pets, your family, right? But to be able to give those in our lives, and the children that we embrace, even if they're not our own in our lives, this kind of stability and this kind of, understanding and emotional openness, where we can say, I understand you're struggling, or I understand that you're confused, or it's dark now, and let's all come together and talk about it. Because that's what this time of year is traditionally all about. That's why trick-or-treating happened, right? It was people who didn't have enough goods harvested to make it through to the end of the year.
And it is sort of a communal thing too.
Absolutely. To this day it is. It always breaks my heart when people say, I can't contribute because I'm going out, because, you want to contribute and you want to give. It's part of the spirit of it. But at the same time, what's important is that it's that community aspect, this kind of, going door to door, and what a wonderful way to get to know the people in your community. And to get to know them at their best when they're having fun and they're all dressed up, and it's and I feel like that's the ultimate message, that if we can look to those that came before us and what they have to guide us with, we can better come together as a community through the darker times and pull all of us through.
What an awesome message. I particularly like this deck. I'm glad you chose it. I wanted to thank you so much for doing this reading. Very insightful, 3 cards. So thank you so much, Victoria from Victrix Oracle. And we'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.